Alright guys, so in this week's video, we're going to be focusing on VAT and transfer duty. Tell me, Johan, when does VAT and transfer duty apply?
First and foremost, Sean, I think there's a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty amongst the consumers when VAT and transfer duty applies. But it's actually very simple. You have to ask yourself a very important question, and that is the registered owner of the property, in other words, the entity that the property is registered in and who is the seller, is he a registered VAT vendor? If the answer to that is yes, then VAT will always apply to your specific transaction and not transfer duties. It's quite important to determine whether VAT or transfer duties apply because it's two different types of tax that has a serious impact on the net price that any seller will obtain out of his transaction. To explain that, VAT is under normal circumstances included in your specific asking price if your contract is mute about VAT, and it is payable by the seller, whilst your transfer duties is normally excluded from the specific purchase price and it is payable by the purchaser.
Cool. Johan, a lot of reference is made to zero-rated transactions. When are they applicable? What does it entail?
Well, zero-rated transactions are normally those specific transactions, to put it bluntly, where I take a property and business lock, stock and barrel. In other words, there has to be three specific requirements that the seller and purchaser complies with. The first one is both of them have to be registered VAT vendors. Secondly, it has to be an income generating enterprise. In other words, the property and the business has to generate an income. And then thirdly, I have to sell the property as a running concern. To give you a good idea, that would probably be a farming activity when I sell the farm and the purchaser, who's also a VAT vendor, takes the specific farm over lock, stock and barrel and continues with the taxable input in the form of the business itself. Then SARS basically says that they will not charge you on the transfer of the property and that VAT will apply but at a zero rate, because they do have taxable returns on a monthly basis which they can utilize and which they can tax the business on. So in that regard, they give you a bit of a breather on the transfer and you get it not free of VAT but at a zero rate, which basically means that no VAT will be payable on this specific transaction, on the proviso that you do comply with those specific three requirements, and it has to form part of your OTP or offer to purchase.
All right, very informative. Johan, last one for this particular episode. When VAT is applicable, is it always included in the asking price?
Sean, under normal circumstances, yes. Section 64 of the VAT Act basically says that if your contract is mute about VAT, it is included in your asking price. To give you a simple example, if you go to a supermarket and you buy a specific good, then in that specific regard, you will never ask the supermarket what is the price for the item and what is the VAT component on it, because the contract is mute about VAT and therefore it is deemed to be included in your physical asking price. It's a very important question that you basically raise, because especially those instances where the seller is a VAT vendor, it has a serious impact on the amount that he nets out of his transaction. And you've got to make provision for it. If it's not deemed to be included, you obviously need to specify it in the agreement that the purchaser will be responsible for the VAT over and above the purchase price. Remember, it still remains the responsibility of the seller as a registered VAT vendor, but it's then the purchaser's responsibility to pay it over and above the purchase price.
I see. Thank you very much. All right, guys, so there you have it, a bit about VAT. If you have any other questions, please feel free to comment on the video. This is a nice informative platform, so we want to give you guys something that that you need answers for and that we can help with. Thank you very much.